The Great Hall of Pelios was the largest structure ever built by any species in the galaxy. Its walls rose so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Its floors were made of crystal that showed the stars beneath. Here, the Galactic Council had met for 10,000 years to decide the fate of civilizations. Today, they would decide the fate of humanity. Taiho stood alone at the center of the hall. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore the simple black uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Around him, arranged in rising circles like a great amphitheater, sat the representatives of 47 species. Some were huge, covered in scales or armor. Others were small, made of light or gas. All of them looked down at the single human with expressions that ranged from pity to disgust. High Speaker Vorel floated at the highest point of the chamber. His body was like a jellyfish made of purple light, and his voice echoed directly into the minds of everyone present. He had led the council for 300 years, and he had never liked humans. They were too new, too hungry, too different. The council recognizes the representative of Earth, Vorel announced. Ambassador Taiho, you stand accused of crimes against the sacred accords. How does humanity plead? Taiho did not flinch. Do not understand the charges. High Speaker, we request clarification. A ripple of whispers moved through the chamber. Such a request was unusual. Most accused species simply begged for mercy. Vorel's light flickered with annoyance. Very well. The charges are as follows. Humanity has developed and tested cascade technology. This technology harvests energy from collapsing pocket dimensions. It was banned by the Council 8,000 years ago. The punishment for developing it is exile from all Council space. Taiho nodded slowly. I see. And when was humanity informed of this prohibition? Silence fell over the chamber. It was a dangerous question. The sacred accords are available to all member species, Vorel said carefully. The sacred accords contain over 9 million laws, Taiho replied. Humanity has been a council member for only 200 years. We were given no guide, no mentor, no list of priorities. We were simply told to follow the rules. He paused. We discovered cascade technology on our own, through our own research. We did not know it was forbidden. We did not know others had discovered it before us. Ignorance is not an excuse, said a massive creature covered in stone-like plates. This was Commander Keth, leader of the Council's military forces. The law is the law. Then I ask for time, Taiho said. Give us 1 year to dismantle our research. We will destroy all data, all equipment, all knowledge. We will comply with the ban. Vorel's glow brightened. The Council does not negotiate with criminals. We are not criminals. We are a young species who made an honest mistake. You're a dangerous species who must be contained. The words hung in the air. Taiho understood then that this trial had never been about justice. It had been decided long before he entered the chamber. He looked up at the assembled aliens and saw the truth in their eyes. They were afraid of humanity. Not for what humans had done, but for what humans might become. I call for a vote, Vorel announced. All in favor of exile? 46 lights appeared around the chamber. Green for yes, all opposed. One light appeared. Red. It came from a small delegation in the corner. A species called the Veth. They were weak and unimportant, but they remembered that humans had helped them once, during a famine. The vote is decided, Vorel declared. Humanity is hereby exiled from all Council space. Your colonies will be surrendered. Your fleet will be reduced to transport vessels only. You have 90 days to retreat to your home system. If any human vessel is found outside the Sol system after that time, it will be destroyed. Taiho stood very still. He did not cry. He did not shout. He simply looked at Vorel with eyes that held no hatred, only understanding. May I say one final thing? He asked. Vorel hesitated. The proper thing was to refuse. Curiosity won. Speak. 200 years ago, when humanity first reached the stars, we were full of hope. We thought we would find friends among the stars. We thought we would find wisdom. Instead, we found you. Taiho's voice was quiet but clear. You call yourselves the Galactic Council. You claim to represent justice and order. But I have watched you today. I have seen how you treat the weak. I have seen how you fear the different. You are not wise. You are not just. You're simply old, Keth growled. You dare insult the council. I state facts, Taiho replied. And I state one more. You have made your choice today. You have chosen to cast out a species for a crime they did not know they committed. You have chosen fear over fairness. Very well. We accept your judgment. We will leave. He turned to walk out of the chamber. At the threshold, he paused and looked back over his shoulder. But remember this moment, he said. Remember that you had a choice, and this is what you chose. Because one day you will wish you had chosen differently. Then he was gone. In the shadows of the upper gallery, a young woman named Sora watched him leave. She was an intelligence officer, officially assigned to observe the trial. Unofficially, she had spent the last 3 years investigating the council itself. She knew things that Taiho did not. She knew that the council had detected humanity's cascade experiments decades ago. They had watched and waited, letting the research continue. They had wanted this moment. They had planned for it because humanity was growing too fast, learning too quickly. In 200 years, they had advanced more than most species did in 2000. The council saw what humanity might become, and they were terrified. The exile was not punishment, it was prevention. Sora slipped out of the gallery and made her way to the human transport. She found Taiho sitting alone in his quarters, staring out the window at the stars. They planned this, she said, from the beginning. They let us develop the technology so they would have an excuse. I know, Taiho said. And you said nothing. What would it change? They had already decided. The only question was whether we would leave with our dignity intact. He turned to look at her. We did. So what now? Taiho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different. Harder, more certain. Now we go home. Now we build. Now we become something they cannot imagine. And when we return, they will understand that exile was not our end. His eyes reflected the distant stars. It was our beginning. The transport's engines hummed to life, and humanity began its long journey home. Behind them, the Galactic Council celebrated their victory, certain that they had contained the threat forever. They could not have been more wrong. 50 years passed. To the Galactic Council, humanity became a distant memory. Old politicians sometimes mentioned them as an example of proper justice. Young species learned about the exile in history classes and quickly forgot. Trade routes curved around the Sol system like water flowing around a stone. No signals came out. No ships came in. The humans had simply disappeared. High Speaker Vorel was pleased. His decision had been correct. The dangerous young species had been contained, and the galaxy was safe. He spent his days managing disputes between older species and collecting rare art from across the stars. Life was good. He never wondered what was happening inside that quarantined system. He never imagined. On Earth, everything had changed. When the exile ships returned home, there had been anger. There had been grief. Millions of humans had been forced to abandon colonies they had built with their own hands. Families had been separated. Dreams had been destroyed. For the first few years, there was chaos. Then Taiho spoke. He traveled from city to city, from continent to continent, from planet to moon. He told everyone the same thing. The Council had not defeated them. The Council had freed them. For 200 years, humanity had tried to fit into a system that was designed to keep them small. Now they could build their own system. Now they could become what they were meant to be. They exiled us because they were afraid, Taiho said. Let us give them something to truly fear. Let us become so powerful that they cannot touch us, so advanced that they cannot understand us, so united that they cannot divide us. This is not the end of humanity's story. This is the beginning. The word spread like fire. Within 10 years, humanity had a single goal. Within 20 years, every human alive worked toward that goal in some way. Scientists researched, engineers built, teachers taught the next generation to dream bigger. Soldiers trained in secret. Everyone had a purpose. At the center of it all was Yuna. She had been a young scientist at the time of the exile. She had been part of the Cascade Technology research team. When the Council banned their work, she had been devastated. She had believed that Cascade technology could change everything, that it could give humanity unlimited power. Taiho gave her the chance to prove it, in a secret facility beneath the ice of Europa. Yuna gathered the best minds humanity had. Their mission was simple, but impossible. Take the forbidden technology and make it perfect. Make it so stable that it could never fail. Make it so efficient that a single reactor could power 1,000 ships. Make it so advanced that the Council's technology would look like stone tools by comparison. For 30 years, they failed. Again and again, the experiments collapsed. The pocket dimensions were unstable. The energy releases were unpredictable. Dozens of scientists died in accidents. Yuna herself was badly injured twice, but she never stopped. Then, in the 47th year of exile, a young engineer named June made a discovery. He was not the smartest person on the team. He was not the most experienced, but he saw something that everyone else had missed. The pocket dimensions were not collapsing randomly. They were collapsing in patterns. If you could predict the patterns, you could control them. And if you could control them, you could harvest their energy safely. June worked for 3 months without sleep. He built a small device in his laboratory on Titan. When he activated it, nothing exploded. Nothing failed. A small sun appeared in the center of the device and held perfectly still, pouring out more energy than a nuclear reactor while consuming nothing. He had done it. Humanity had unlimited power. Yuna cried when she saw it. She was old now, her hair white and her hands shaking. But her eyes were still bright. "Tell Taiho," she said. "Tell him we're ready." But Taiho was dying. At 112 years old, his body had finally failed. He lay in a simple bed on Earth, surrounded by the people who had followed him for half a century. Minho was there, the fleet admiral who had spent 50 years building a secret navy in the darkness between planets. Sora was there, the spy master who knew every secret the Council had. Yuna arrived just in time, carrying a small container of light in her hands. "We did it," she said. "The technology works. We have everything we need." Taiho smiled. It was a tired smile, but a satisfied one. "I knew you would," he said. "I always knew." "What do we do now?" Minho asked. "Do we attack? Do we take revenge?" Taiho shook his head slowly. "No, we do not become what they are. We do not destroy. We build." He looked at each of them in turn. Build something they cannot imagine. Build it so well that it lasts forever. Not an empire of conquest. An empire of creation. Show the galaxy what humanity can do when we are free. Closed his eyes. "Do not hate them," he whispered, "but never forget what they did." Then he was gone. They buried him on a hillside overlooking the ocean where he had been born. Millions watched. No one spoke. They simply stood in silence. Honoring the man who had turned their darkest hour into their greatest opportunity, Yuna took command. "Taiho gave us our mission," she said to the gathered leaders. "Now we complete it. The fleet is ready. The technology is ready. Our people are ready. 50 years ago, the Council thought they had killed us. It is time to show them how wrong they were." In the outer reaches of the solar system, hidden in the darkness beyond Neptune, 10,000 ships activated their engines for the first time. Each one was larger than any Council warship. Each one was powered by June's Cascade reactors. Each one was crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the flagship. It's a vessel 3 kilometers long named after Taiho himself. He looked out at his fleet and felt something he had not felt in 50 years. "Hope. The time of silence is over," he said. "Set course for Council space." The fleet moved as one, sliding through the darkness like a knife through water. Behind them, the sun grew small and distant. Ahead, the galaxy waited. Humanity was coming home, and nothing would ever be the same. Commander Keth had served the Galactic Council for 400 years. He had fought in 17 wars. He had conquered rebellious species and crushed pirate fleets. Nothing surprised him anymore until the disappearances began. It started on the frontier. A small military outpost stopped sending reports. Keth sent a patrol ship to investigate. The patrol ship never returned. He sent a larger force. They also vanished. No distress signals, no debris, no explanation. Then another outpost went dark. Then another. Then 5 at once. In 2 months, 14 stations and 37 ships had simply ceased to exist. Keth had no idea what was happening. Neither did anyone else. He reported to the council with fear in his heart. "Something is out there," he said. "Something we cannot see. Something we cannot fight." High Speaker Vorel listened with growing unease. He was much older now, kept alive by machines that replaced his failing body. But his mind was still sharp, and he was beginning to have terrible suspicions. "Where are these disappearances occurring?" he asked. Keth showed him a map. The missing outposts formed a curved line along the edge of council space. And that curve pointed toward one direction. "The Sol system," Vorel said. "That is impossible. The humans are contained. They have nothing." "High Speaker, perhaps we should send scouts to verify." "No." Vorel's mental voice was so loud that several delegates clutched their heads in pain. "We will not show them weakness. They are primitives. Whatever is happening, it is not them. It was wrong." 3 days later, a single ship appeared at the edge of council space. It was human in design, but far more advanced than anything from 50 years ago. It broadcast a simple message on all frequencies. "The human dominion requests an audience with the Galactic Council. You have 72 hours to respond," the message repeated. Nothing else. The ship just waited, hanging in space like a patient predator. Vorel's response was immediate and angry. He ordered the largest fleet available to intercept the human vessel. 200 warships, the pride of the Council Navy, jumped to the coordinates. Commander Keth himself led the force. They arrived expecting to find one ship. They found 1,000. Keth stared at his sensors, unable to believe what he was seeing. Human vessels filled the space before him. Some were small and quick. Some were medium-sized cruisers. And some were enormous, larger than anything the Council had ever built. The flagship alone was 3 kilometers long. It radiated so much power that Keth's sensors couldn't even measure it. His entire fleet could fit inside that single ship for a long moment. No one spoke. The Council ships floated in silence, surrounded by overwhelming force. Then a voice came through the communications system. It was calm and professional. "This is Admiral Minho of the Human Dominion. We are not here for war. We are here to deliver a message. Please lower your weapons and listen." Keth's crew looked at him. They were terrified. He could see it in their eyes. He felt it himself. But he was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders. "Our weapons stay active," he said. "Speak your message." "Very well." The Admiral's voice remained patient. 50 years ago, the Galactic Council exiled humanity to our home system. You believed this would contain us. You believed we would wither and die. You were wrong. On every council ship, screens activated without permission. They showed images of the Sol system. Cities on Mars, factories on the moons of Jupiter, shipyards around Saturn, a civilization that had grown beyond anything they had imagined. "We did not waste our exile," Minho continued. "We used it. We united. We advanced. And now, we are ready to return to the galaxy. Not as members of your council, not as your servants. As equals." Vorel's voice cut through the transmission. He had been listening from Pelios, and he was furious. "You have no right to make demands. You are exiles. You are criminals." "We were exiles," Minho agreed. "Now we are the Human Dominion, and we are not asking for your permission. We are informing you of our intentions, which are: we will expand into the uncharted regions beyond council space. We will build colonies where no species has ever lived. We do not want your territory. We do not want your resources. We simply want to be left alone." It was an ugly sound, filled with contempt. "And if we refuse, if we order you back to your prison, then you will discover why you should have left us alone 50 years ago." Silence. Keth looked at his weapons officer. They both knew the truth. The council fleet had no chance. But Vorel did not know. or did not care. All ships, Vorel commanded, open fire. Keth hesitated. High Speaker, perhaps we should. I gave an order. Destroy them. The Council fleet fired everything they had. Plasma beams, nuclear missiles, gravity bombs. The combined firepower of 200 warships, enough to destroy a planet, slammed into the human formation. The human shields absorbed it all, not deflected. Not damaged, absorbed. The light vanished into their barriers like water into sand. When it was over, every human ship remained exactly where it had been, without a scratch. Minho's voice returned, and now there was something cold in it. You had a choice. You chose wrong. The human ships did not fire weapons. They did something worse. A wave of energy pulsed outward from the flagship, spreading through the Council fleet like a ripple through water. Every Council ship went dark. Engines failed. Weapons powered down. Life support flickered. They were completely helpless. Your ships will recover in 1 hour, Minho said. Your crews are unharmed. Consider this a demonstration. The next time you attack us, we will not be so gentle. A pause. Tell your council this. We do not want war. We do not want revenge. We want to build something better than what you created. Stay out of our way, and you have nothing to fear. Get in our way again, and you will learn what exile taught us. The human fleet began to move, sliding past the paralyzed council ships like ghosts. They did not look back. Keth floated in darkness, surrounded by his useless fleet. He had never felt so small, so insignificant. For 400 years, he had believed the Council was the greatest power in the galaxy. Now he knew the truth. They were not even close. On Pelios, Vorel raged and threatened and demanded revenge. But the other Council members were quiet. They had seen the demonstration. They understood what it meant. The humans could have destroyed the entire fleet without effort. Instead, it simply turned off the lights. That was the most terrifying thing of all, because it meant they did not need to kill. They were so far beyond the Council that killing was unnecessary. They could simply ignore their former masters and build their empire elsewhere, and that is exactly what they did. The human dominion expanded into the unknown regions, leaving the Council behind. They were not conquerors. They were builders, and they were just getting started. 500 years changed everything. The human dominion grew like a forest after rain. Where once there had been empty space, now there were thousands of worlds. Cities floated in the atmospheres of gas giants. Research stations orbited black holes, studying the secrets of the universe. Great ships traveled between the stars, carrying colonists to new homes. Humanity did not conquer. They built. When they found habitable planets, they did not strip them bare. They planted gardens. They raised forests. They created places of beauty where their children could play and their elders could rest. When they found planets too harsh for life, they did not abandon them. They built domes and towers, turning wastelands into wonders. Una lived to see it all. The old scientist had refused to die. Human medicine had advanced far beyond what the Council could imagine, and she had been given every treatment available. At 300 years old, she was more machine than flesh, but her mind remained sharp. She walked through the cities of the Dominion and marveled at what her people had created. Taiho would be proud, she often said. We built something they could not imagine. But the universe held surprises even for her. In the 500th year of expansion, human exploration ship discovered something strange. A planet covered entirely in ancient structures. Buildings that had stood for millions of years. Technology that made even human science look simple. And a single survivor. His name was Doran. He was the last of a species called the Elden, who had ruled the galaxy before any current species had evolved. He was old beyond understanding, kept alive by machines that no one could replicate. When the human explorers found him, he was sitting in a chair, staring at the stars. He had been sitting there for longer than humanity had existed, so he said when he saw them, "You are the young ones, the ones who were exiled. I have been watching you." They brought him to Una, the ancient human and the ancient alien studied each other for a long moment. Then Doran smiled, though it looked more like a crack forming in old stone. "You have done well," he said. "Better than any young species I have seen. Better than the ones who exiled you?" "Certainly." "You know about the council?" Yuna asked. "I know about everything. I have been watching this galaxy for 10 million years. The council is nothing new. Every cycle, the old species become afraid of the new. They try to control them, to contain them. Sometimes they succeed. Sometimes they fail." He tilted his head. "With you, they failed spectacularly. Why are you telling us this?" Doran's smile faded. "Because a catastrophe is coming. It comes every million years or so. The last time it happened, it destroyed my people. We were the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever seen, and we were swept away like dust." His ancient eyes fixed on Yuna. "You may be strong enough to survive, but only if you are prepared." He told her about the cycles, about the patterns of rise and fall that had repeated throughout galactic history, about the dangers that lurked in the spaces between stars. Yuna listened, and she believed him. The Dominion began to prepare. Meanwhile, back in Council space, things were falling apart. Without humanity to fear, the old species had returned to fighting each other. Trade disputes became wars. Alliances crumbled. The technology that had once seemed so advanced now felt primitive compared to the glimpses they had seen of human power. Young species looked at the council and saw only decay. Voral was still high speaker, kept alive by ever more desperate measures. He had become obsessed with humanity. He spent every waking moment planning their destruction. His hatred had consumed everything else. "They humiliated us," he muttered to anyone who would listen. "They made us look weak. We must destroy them. We must show the galaxy that the Council is still supreme." His scientists searched the ancient records. They found references to a weapon from long ago, something created by a species that had vanished in one of the cycles Doran had described. A weapon that could consume entire fleets, entire systems, perhaps even entire empires. Voral ordered them to find it, to activate it, whatever the cost. But not everyone in the council agreed with his madness. The Veth, the species who had voted against human exile 500 years ago, finally made a decision. Their homeworld was dying from a plague that their medicine could not cure. They sent a desperate message to the human dominion, asking for help. They expected to be ignored, or mocked, or charged an impossible price. Instead, human medical ships arrived within days. They brought treatments that cured the plague in weeks. They asked for nothing in return. The Veth leader wept when she understood. "Why?" she asked the human admiral who commanded the relief mission. "We are council members. We are your enemies. You voted for us," the admiral said simply. 500 years ago, when everyone else wanted us gone, you stood alone. We remember." The Veth became the first species to leave the council and join the Dominion. Others followed. Species who were tired of the endless wars. Species who saw no future in the old order. Species who simply wanted something better. The Dominion welcomed them all, not as subjects, but as partners. Voral watched his empire crumble, and his hatred grew deeper. Sora, now leading the largest intelligence network in galactic history, learned of his plans. Her agents had infiltrated every level of council society. They reported back with growing alarm. "He has found the weapon," Sora told the Dominion leadership. "It is called the Swarm. Self-replicating machines designed to consume all energy in their path. The species that created it used it to destroy their enemies. Then it destroyed them too." Empress Nari, Taiho's successor 7 generations removed, listened carefully. She was young for an empress, only 90 years old, but she had been trained since birth to lead. "Can he control it?" she asked. "No one can control it. Once it is activated, it will consume everything until there is nothing left to consume. Then we must stop him." But they were too late. On a dead world at the edge of council space, Voral's scientists activated the ancient weapon. They believed they could direct it toward the human dominion. They believed they could control it. They were wrong. The swarm awoke hungry. It consumed the scientists first, then the planet. Then the 3 ships that had brought them. It began to grow, spreading outward like a cancer, eating everything in its path. Vorel received the news with something like joy. "Let it destroy them," he said. "Let it destroy them all." He did not understand what he had done. He did not understand that the swarm would not stop with humanity. It would consume the entire galaxy, including every species in the Council, including Vorel himself. By the time he realized his mistake, it was far too late. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever seen was awake, and only humanity had the power to stop it. The swarm moved like a plague of metal locusts. Each machine was small, no larger than a human hand. But there were trillions of them, and every hour their numbers doubled. They consumed everything they touched: ships, stations, planets. They converted matter into more of themselves, an endless cycle of destruction and replication. Within 1 week, 3 Council Core worlds were gone, not conquered, not damaged, gone. Where once there had been cities and oceans and billions of lives, there was only gray dust and spreading darkness. The Council fleet tried to fight there. Weapons destroyed thousands of machines, but millions more took their place. Their shields held for minutes before being eaten through. Their ships were swallowed whole. Their crews consumed before they could even scream. Vorel finally understood what he had done. He stood on his flagship, watching the swarm approach his homeworld. The purple light of his body flickered with terror. Around him, his officers begged for orders, but he had none to give. "What have I done?" he whispered. "What have I done?" The swarm answered him. It crashed through his fleet like water through paper. It tore his flagship apart piece by piece. In his final moments, Vorel cursed humanity one last time, then he was gone. Consumed by the weapon he had unleashed, the remaining Council species sent desperate messages to the human Dominion. They did not demand. They did not threaten. They begged. "Please help us. Please save us. We will do anything. We are sorry for what we did, please." Empress Nari read the messages in the Great Hall of New Earth, the capital of the Dominion. Around her stood the leaders of humanity's government, military, and science divisions. They all knew what the Council was asking. They all had opinions. "Let them burn," said one general. "They exiled us. They tried to contain us. They unleashed this weapon to destroy us. Why should we sacrifice our people to save them?" "Because if we don't, the swarm will not stop with them," said Sora, ancient now, but still sharp. "It will consume the entire galaxy, including us. We can retreat. We can fortify. Our technology is superior to the Council, yes, but the swarm adapts, yes. Given enough time and matter to consume, it will overcome any defense. The only way to survive is to destroy it now, while we still can." Nari listened to the arguments. She thought about Taiho, the ancestor she had never met, but whose words she had memorized as a child. Build something they cannot imagine. Build it so well that it lasts forever. Grandfather Taiho did not build this Dominion so that we could become what the Council was, she said quietly. The room fell silent. He did not teach us to hate. He taught us to be better. If we let the Council die when we have the power to save them, we become exactly what they feared we were. She stood up. We are not monsters. We are human. And humans do not turn away from those who need help. Even if they do not deserve it. The decision was made. The entire Dominion fleet mobilized. Over 100,000 ships, the greatest force ever assembled in galactic history, moved toward Council space. At its head flew the flagship Taihos. Dream, commanded by the latest in a long line of Admiral Minhos. Yuna, 350 years old, more machine than flesh, uploaded her consciousness into the fleet's computer network. Her mind spread across 100,000 ships, coordinating their movements with perfect precision. She had spent her life perfecting cascade technology. Now she would use it one last time. June, the engineer who had first made unlimited power possible, had died centuries ago. But his descendants carried his knowledge. They had developed a weapon based on his principles, the controlled cascade reaction. that could disrupt the signal the swarm used to coordinate. Without that signal, the machines would stop replicating. They would become just metal. Not harmless metal, but the weapon had a cost. To generate a reaction large enough to affect the entire swarm, someone would have to carry it into the heart of the machine mass, and they would not survive. June's great-great-granddaughter, a young engineer named Hannah, volunteered. "My ancestor gave you the technology," she said. "It is right that his family finishes what he started." The battle began at the edge of what had once been council space. The swarm had grown massive, a cloud of machines that blocked out the stars. The human fleet crashed into it like a wave hitting rock. Ships died by the thousands. The swarm was overwhelming, endless, hungry, and shields held longer than council shields had, but they still fell eventually. Pilots screamed and fought and died, buying time for those behind them. But the humans were not just dying, they were pushing forward. Inch by inch, ship by ship, they carved a path toward the center of the swarm where the primary coordination signal was generated. Yuna's consciousness raced through the fleet, directing ships, coordinating attacks, finding weaknesses. She had never felt so alive, so connected, so purposeful. This was what she had been born for, what she had lived 3 centuries for. Almost. There, she whispered across 100,000 speakers. "Hold the line. Just a little longer." Hannah's small ship broke through the final wall of machines. She could see the heart of the swarm now, a pulsing core of metal and energy. She armed her weapon. "Thank you," she said to no one in particular. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." She flew directly into the core and triggered the cascade reaction. Light exploded outward. Not light that destroyed, but light that disrupted. The swarm's signal shattered. Trillions of machines suddenly stopped, frozen in space, their purpose lost. They began to drift apart, harmless now, just debris. Hannah was gone. 40% of the human fleet was gone. Nona's consciousness flickered and faded, her final thought a smile. But the swarm was dead. The galaxy was saved. In the aftermath, the surviving council species did not know what to say. Their government was destroyed. Their worlds were shattered. Their leaders were dead. They gathered in the ruins of Pelios and waited for the humans to come and punish them. Empress Nari came, but she did not come with weapons. She came with reconstruction ships, medical vessels, food transports, hope. "The council is dissolved," she said to the assembled survivors. "The old order is gone, but that does not mean you are abandoned." She looked at the broken species around her, so different from the proud rulers who had exiled her ancestors. "The human dominion is not an empire of conquest. We do not want your submission. We want your partnership. Come with us. Help us build something new, something better, something that lasts." One by one, the surviving species joined. Not because they were forced, because they finally understood what humanity had been trying to show them all along. Power was not about destruction. It was about creation. 1,000 years later, a young alien historian named Vera traveled to Earth. She was from a species that had joined the Dominion centuries ago, long after the Swarm War. She had grown up in a galaxy of peace and plenty, where 100 species worked together toward common goals. She wanted to understand how it had started. She walked through a museum dedicated to the exile era. She saw images of Tai Ho, the dignified man who had turned humiliation into determination. She saw recordings of Yuna, the scientist who had given humanity unlimited power. She saw the names of those who had died stopping the swarm, including young Hannah. At the end of the museum there was a simple plaque. On it were words that Tai Ho had spoken on his deathbed. Words that had guided humanity for 1,000 years. Build something they cannot imagine. Build it so well that it lasts forever. Vera stepped outside. Above her, the sky was full of ships. Vessels from 100 different species, all flying together, all carrying the flag of the Dominion. Below, her human children played with alien children in gardens that had existed for centuries. She understood now. Humanity had done exactly what Tai Ho asked. They had been exiled, abandoned, written off as a threat to be contained. And they had responded not with revenge, not with destruction, but with creation. They had built an empire that stretched across eternity, an empire of hope instead of fear, of partnership instead of domination. The Galactic Council had been right to fear humanity, but they had feared the wrong thing. They had feared human aggression, human ambition, human power. They should have feared human patience, human kindness, human vision, because in the end, those were the weapons that conquered the galaxy, not with fire, but with light, and the light would never go out.